Happy Astrological New Year! So all of you who didn't quite get in your New Year, New Me, this is the moment, this is the time, start over, hit the refresh, we can run with it and go. So traditionally, astrologers take this chart of the spring equinox when the sun enters 0 degrees of Aries as the birthday of the year. And we look at it as a birth chart or as a solar return for the entire year. So from now until March of 2027, we are taking this forecast of that moment, which will be on March 20th at around 7:46 in the morning Pacific time. Now, with all yearly forecasts, including the change of the zodiac of the Chinese zodiac, the Lunar New Year, all of the 2026, and now finally the spring equinox, we are witnessing rapid emergence of what 2026 is about to hold. So what does it hold? What is this 0 degrees of Aries point? This point marks the beginning and the end of the zodiac, the origin point, the cycle of rebirth. But what is the end and what is beginning, truly? This moment in time evokes the image of the Ouroboros, the serpent biting its tail, symbolizing eternity and the soul of the world. And this comes from the Chrysopoeia of Cleopatra. That name was used potentially as a pseudonym, but we know that she put in the first illustration of the Ouroboros from a 10th century Alexandria manuscript depicting the Ouroboros surrounding the words hen to pan, meaning the all is one. Pisces, the sign of unity, the universe, and the all becoming the one of Aries. The snake devouring itself, symbolically sustaining life while simultaneously bringing about its own death in one act. In this moment, when we consider the birth chart of the world in Thema Mundi, where the sun has just entered that 0 degrees of Aries, and from that place, as envisioned in the theogony of Hesiod, verily, at the first chaos came to be, but next, wide-bosomed earth, the ever-sure foundations of it all. Earth, matter, and existence itself is born out of chaos. And this closely mirrors this spring equinox chart, because first, the sun will enter 0 degrees of Aries. Just one day later, the very first relationship that it will encounter is a conjunction with Neptune at 1 degrees of Aries. And Neptune is symbolic of the dissolution of our ego, the surrender to the unknown, and chaos of the subconscious. In its most primal form, in Aries, the sign of the survivor. And just days later, Saturn will then conjoin with Saturn. And Saturn is our lord of time. He is our master of reality, of matter, the physical plane. At first, chaos came to be, but next, wide-bosomed earth. The energy of our sun, our collective soul together now coming into Aries, is taking on the energy of the pioneer, the champion, the hero, the winner, the first one out of the gate in the soul that says, I'm going, I'm not bothered with any of the consequences. And like Athena, who burst fully formed out of Zeus's head, already outfitted with her weapons, with her ferocity, there's only action forward, movement, drive, and focus. Athena is born from Zeus's head. And Zeus, well, first of all, the head being of Aries rulership, interesting. And it's after he swallows a pregnant Metis, a figure who transforms herself into many different forms. She's a daughter of the ocean. She doesn't want to be seen or perceived by Zeus and all of his advances. So he swallows her when she's pregnant. And that is how Athena is born inside of his head and produced outward when his head is split open. Zeus, consuming Metis, much like the sun conjoining with Neptune with that elusive chaos of Neptune. And from that point, the inspiration, the emergence of the warrior Athena in all her glory, ready to go out and save the day. I want to emphasize that this illustration and the series of events is not only what lies at the spring equinox chart. This is the energy of the entire next year, is that emergence point, is that inspiration. Now, previously, in years past, Saturn and Neptune have laid behind the sun at 0 degrees of Aries. So the sobering ice bucket of Saturn was met first, followed by the cold confusion fog of Neptune, where the obstacles lay in front of us before we could get to Aries, our rebirth. But now they lie ahead with an entirely different new expression. Neptune in Aries inspires a hero's mission, a hero's vision to the future. Saturn in Aries cautions against reckless abandon, but concretizes what is just born, taking on our ownership and our responsibility. Now, what phase of the moon do we have to look forward to for all of the next year? This equinox blesses us with a new moon in the sign of Aries. There's more new beginnings. This is truly a moment of great beginnings. Or are they endings? Or is it birth? Or is it death? Or is it just a breath within a transformation? The moon will be nestled between our goddess of attraction in the sky, Venus, and the mentor of heroes, Chiron, in Aries. Venus infuses the moon with passion and softness and sweetness, although she does have a flavor a bit on the fiery badass babe in her leather and her boots and her expression in Aries, where she doesn't really give any fucks and she just wants to go for her passion. And Chiron is bringing our wounds around those Aries archetypes, so independence, loneliness, and survival, right to the surface of our moon's expression. And like Persephone, who rises from the underworld every spring, bringing with her, as it is said in the Homeric hymn to Demeter, waving long ears of corn and its rich furrows to be loaded with grain upon the ground. The world blossoms at Persephone's feet upon her return. And she and her mother, like Chiron, teach the people, spread the wisdom of the Eleusinian mysteries out of their sorrow, out of their transformation, out of their wound. It is upon her return she's met with the world blossoming, but not without the recognition of the world of darkness and death she has ascended from. It is from that place that she can share her wisdom now as goddess, crowned queen of the underworld. The new moon of this equinox holds that joy and promise of a world blossoming into something new, while remaining acutely aware of the suffering and pain it has endured to bring upon this new reality. That is what we carry with us, these bittersweet meetings of these archetypes into the next year. It brings with us the ability to make a path, to make new meaning of our suffering, to learn from our wounds and our heartaches, and to acknowledge the grief, knowing that that transformation was necessary for us to grow and to heal into a renewed version of ourselves. The descent and transformation into the underworld had to come first. And then, as Homer eloquently describes, the earth shall bloom with the fragrant flowers of spring in every kind. Then from the realm of darkness, you shall come up once more. And Pluto, Hades, Lord of the underworld, whispers behind in the sign of Aquarius, where he'll be for the next 20 years, reminding us that transformation will occur again in the future, because every cycle repeats. Crisis is inevitable. The future is coming, and growth requires change. Growth requires courage of us at every threshold. And present as well within this chart sings the ancient song of Orpheus down in the underworld. Mercury still is retrograde at the moment of this equinox, but moments from stationing direct, which means, yes, we're carrying a Mercury retrograde the entire year. But it is standing at the point of the north node of the moon in Pisces. We are carrying this moment right before Mercury's turnabout in a sign where he's not quite as comfortable. It's a little more mythological. And Mercury stands dangerously close to a longing Mars in Pisces, who aches and he yearns for the distance he believes is just beyond self-surrender. And he's in a loving trine to Jupiter, who promises a future of care and protection and nurturing. So this brought to mind Orpheus at that climactic moment where he turns back for his condemned love, Eurydice. This is from Ovid, the Metamorphoses, Book 10. They took the upward path through the still silence, steep and dark, shadowy with dense fog, drawing near to the threshold of the upper world. Afraid she was no longer there and eager to see her, the lover turned his eyes. In an instant, she dropped back, and he, unhappy man, stretching out his arms to hold her and be held, clutched at nothing but receding air. Dying a second time, she spoke a last farewell that scarcely reached his ears and turned again toward that same place. Mercury retrograde casts our thoughts and our words in that most mystifying place in Pisces and our songs backwards. Conjoined with the North Node, there's a recognition of a gap that needs to be bridged between where we are currently and where we wish to be, or we long to reach for. But this could be clouded by a grief or a longing for a time that is no more. Mars in Pisces nearby is motivating us to act from a place of vision. Perhaps we can't see where we're going yet, but there's a spiritual quest within every movement and a dream that the future we are traveling towards is the utopia that we long for. This can be incredibly inspirational, and this can be incredibly delusional, and maybe a combination of the two. Now, while Orpheus chose to listen to the seeds of doubt within, desperately longing to gaze at his beloved, another mythic figure chose to listen to belief in this moment, even when the seas ahead threatened danger and the unknown. Odysseus, who ties himself to the masts of the Argo to hear the beautiful song of the sirens on voyage in dangerous waters, is remembered for more than just his trials. The ship itself, the Argo, with a sacred prow made from a beam from Dodona, speaks to Odysseus and his crew with prophetic guidance. Odysseus himself is in dialogue and service to his goddess, once again, the flashing-eyed Athena, who repeatedly intervenes and guides him to realign with his wisdom. Both are examples of a surrender of our ego to a larger belief, at times motivating or prodding us to do the uncomfortable act that paves the way for our own heroism and glory amidst stormy seas. This is an act of that expression of the trine to Jupiter. Mercury in trine says, I believe there is direction. Guidance from spirit does exist even when you cannot see it. Odysseus' devotion to his patron goddess, however punishing, is not punishment. It serves as his navigation on his heroic journey. If Orpheus teaches us what happens when longing looks backward from a lack of faith, Odysseus, the Argo, and Athena remind us that even in the storm, faith and acceptance of service on behalf of a greater mission than ourselves, that's what knows the way forward. Now, tying all these mythical undertones, planetary positions, and stories passed down from our ancestors all together, where does this leave us on this equinox for the next year ahead? I believe Persephone holds the answer. That despite the darkness, despite the past, despite death and destruction and the unknown and chaos, that we must rise anyway. We must dare to believe that a world in bloom lies just beyond our suffering, and that the lessons we have painfully carried and the sacred missions that we carry in our hearts are what pave the way for greater compassion, greater wisdom, and greater unity. To trust in the unfolding of the universe, and that every death is indeed a new season of birth. To trust that even in the midst of chaos, we were destined to walk in the light amongst the gods again. So what arises in this Aries ingress does not need full certainty to begin. It requires your surrender, your acceptance, your patience, and your faith that it is all working out for you. So may you manifest a life of divine purpose and divine glory, for you were born to walk amongst the gods, and you are worthy of it. And most importantly, remember that you are free. Blessed equinox to you.